How often should older women bathe after 70? 8 shocking facts you need to know. Have you ever wondered if your bathing routine could be doing more harm than good? Ladies, you may think you have everything figured out, but after 70, the way you bathe can impact your skin, health, and even your longevity in ways you never imagined. From accelerating skin aging to increasing the risk of infections, most women over 70 unknowingly make critical bathing mistakes. But don't worry, I'm here to help you rethink your routine and protect your well-being. Stay with me until the end because I'm revealing 8 shocking bathing facts that could transform the way you care for yourself. Trust me, you won't want to miss a single one if you care about staying healthy and vibrant in your golden years. Before we begin, do me a favor. Like this video to help me continue spreading valuable life lessons, and if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss an update. Let's get started. Fact 1. Bathing too often can age your skin faster. The ancient Greek physician Hippocrates once said, "Healing is a matter of time, but it is sometimes also a matter of opportunity." His wisdom reminds us that as we grow older, our bodies change and we must adapt to these changes rather than resist them. In the past, people understood the importance of balance. Greek and Roman bathhouses were not just places for cleansing but also for relaxation and social connection, yet they knew that too much of a good thing could be harmful. Excessive bathing was discouraged, as it was believed to weaken the body's natural defenses. The same principle applies today. Our skin, the body's largest organ, is a delicate shield that protects us from the elements. When we were young, we may have enjoyed the luxury of daily, even twice-daily showers, believing that cleanliness equaled health. But after 70, this habit can do more harm than good. The oils that once nourished our skin diminish, and each hot shower strips away what little protection remains. We must learn to care for ourselves differently, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. True self-care is not about scrubbing away every trace of dirt, but about preserving what keeps us strong. I remember a woman named Margaret, a dear friend I met in my senior community. Margaret had always prided herself on being immaculately groomed. Every morning, without fail, she would take a long hot shower, lathering herself in fragrant soaps, scrubbing as if washing away the years. She did not realize the toll it was taking on her. Over time, her skin became dry and paper-thin, prone to bruises that took weeks to heal. She would often complain about the itching, the discomfort, and the way her skin no longer felt like her own. But the habit was ingrained, tied to an old belief that a fresh shower meant a fresh start. Then one winter she caught a terrible rash. Her doctor told her it was caused by excessive washing. "You're stripping away your body's natural protection," he warned. I remember her looking at me afterward, shaking her head. "I thought I was doing the right thing," she admitted. I never stopped to think that my body had changed. That moment stayed with me. How often do we cling to routines that no longer serve us? Margaret was not alone in her thinking. Society has long valued youth, pushing an ideal that demands we maintain the same habits, the same standards, even as time reshapes us. But aging is not about fighting the inevitable. It's about adapting with grace. Margaret eventually changed her routine. She cut down her showers, switched to gentler cleansers, and began moisturizing after every wash. Her skin improved, but more importantly, she learned to listen to her body, to respect its changing needs rather than resist them. The truth is, we live in a world that tells us more is always better, more cleanliness, more perfection, more youth. But the real wisdom of aging is knowing when to do less. Sometimes, taking a step back, whether in how often we bathe, how much we push ourselves, or how we judge ourselves, is the key to a longer, healthier life. So tell me, have you ever held on to a habit simply because it was what you had always done? Have you ever realized too late that change was necessary? Share your thoughts with me in the comments. I'd love to hear your reflections. Fact 2. Overbathing increases infection risk. Lao Tzu once said, "Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished." His words remind us that balance, not excess, is the key to longevity and well-being. The ancient Native American tribes also understood this. They bathed in natural waters, using plants and oils to protect their skin, but they did not scrub themselves raw or wash away the natural defenses their bodies had built. They lived in harmony with their environment, knowing that stripping the body too often left it vulnerable to sickness. In our modern world, we often forget this wisdom. We assume that more washing, more scrubbing, and more products equate to better hygiene, but too much cleansing can do the opposite. It can weaken the very barriers designed to keep us safe. I remember my neighbor George, a proud veteran in his late 70s. He was the kind of man who believed in discipline, order, and a strict routine. Every morning, without fail, he would take a long steaming shower, scrubbing his skin with antibacterial soap until it practically squeaked. "Gotta stay clean," he would say. "Cleanliness is next to godliness." He prided himself on never missing a day. But over time, I noticed something. His skin had become red and irritated, always dry, no matter how much lotion he used. Then came the infections. First, it was a stubborn rash that wouldn't go away, then small cuts on his feet that festered longer than they should have. One day he was hospitalized for cellulitis, a serious skin infection. The doctors told him his habit of overwashing had stripped away his skin's natural defenses. "Your skin isn't just a barrier," the doctor explained. "It's alive. It's working for you. But if you wash too aggressively, you're weakening its ability to protect you." George was stunned. All his life he had believed that cleanliness was a virtue. He never considered that too much of it could cause harm. Slowly he changed. He stopped using harsh soaps. He cut down on the long, scalding showers. He learned to moisturize and to treat his skin with the same care he once gave to his boots when he polished them. And wouldn't you know it, his infections stopped. His skin, though aged, became healthier. It was a lesson he had learned late, but one that changed his life. And I think about that lesson often. In today's world, we are obsessed with sterilization. We scrub away the good bacteria on our skin, just as we scrub away traditions, patience, and the slower rhythms of life. We forget that nature has its own way of protecting us if we allow it to. So tell me, have you ever clung to a habit believing it was good, only to realize it was doing more harm than good? Have you ever changed the way you care for yourself and seen the difference? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Your stories matter. Fact 3. Hot showers can be dangerous for seniors. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." His words remind us that the things we love and find comfort in can sometimes become dangers when we refuse to adapt to life's changes. In ancient times, Romans indulged in luxurious steam baths, believing them to be a source of relaxation and health. Yet even they knew the risks. Too much heat could weaken the body, and fainting in the baths was not uncommon. Elders were advised to bathe in moderation, using lukewarm water to protect their strength. Today we often ignore this wisdom. We still seek comfort in long, hot showers, believing they soothe our aches. But for seniors, they can be a hidden hazard. I remember my old friend Tom, a retired carpenter with hands that told the story of a lifetime of hard work. Every evening he followed the same ritual. He would turn on the shower, letting the steam rise thick around him, easing the stiffness in his bones. It was his moment of peace, the only time he felt relief from the years of wear on his joints. But one night everything changed. His wife found him on the bathroom floor, unconscious, the shower still running. He had felt a little lightheaded, but he thought nothing of it, until the world tilted and he blacked out. The paramedics told him he was lucky. His blood pressure had dropped suddenly, a common reaction to the heat, and he had hit his head on the way down. 1 inch to the left and it could have been fatal. Tom, a man who had once built houses with his bare hands, now needed help just to stand. The recovery was slow, painful, and humiliating. I visited him often, and I saw the frustration in his eyes, the frustration of a man who had always relied on his own strength, now betrayed by something as simple as a hot shower. "If I had just known," he told me one day, shaking his head. "If I had just listened to my body instead of my habits." Eventually, Tom made changes. He lowered the water temperature, he installed grab bars. He even got himself a shower chair, though it took some convincing. He learned that real strength wasn't in pushing through, it was in knowing when to adjust, when to be wise instead of stubborn. And isn't that true for all of us? How often do we cling to old routines, ignoring the warning signs our bodies give us? How often do we resist small changes that could protect us, simply because we don't want to admit that we've changed? If Tom's story makes you think, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to change a lifelong habit for the sake of your health? Was it hard to accept? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your wisdom might help someone else make a safer choice today. Fact 4. Your feet need special attention. Confucius once said, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." Wise words, yet how often do we stop to care for the very feet that carry us through life? In ancient times, foot care was a sacred practice. The Cherokee people massaged their feet with herbal oils, understanding that the body's health flowed upward from the ground. Chinese medicine viewed the soles as maps of the entire body, linking them to heart, liver, and brain function. Even soldiers in history, from Roman legions to American infantry, were taught that neglected feet could mean the difference between survival and suffering. Yet today, in a world obsessed with youth and beauty, we forget this ancient wisdom. We pamper our faces, slather on creams, and worry over every wrinkle, but our feet, our foundation, are ignored until they scream for help. I learned this lesson the hard way through my sister Eleanor. She was always elegant, always well-dressed. Even in her 70s, she wore lipstick just to check the mail. But her vanity had a blind spot. Her feet, she never paid them much attention, never checked for dryness or swelling. One winter, a tiny crack formed on her heel. Just a small thing, nothing to worry about. Then it deepened. It became painful to walk, so she put more pressure on the other foot. Weeks later, that foot swelled. When she finally saw a doctor, the news was grim. An infection had set in. It should have been a simple thing, but her diabetes complicated it. The slow healing, the circulation issues, it all caught up to her. They had to remove part of her toe. The Eleanor I knew, proud and independent, was suddenly unsteady. I remember how she looked at me after her first fall with the walker, eyes filled with a quiet grief. "If I had just taken better care of them," she whispered. And that was the moment I understood. We neglect the small things until they become the big things. We assume our feet will always do their job, until one day, they don't. Eleanor changed after that. She started washing her feet daily, drying them carefully, moisturizing the soles, and trimming her nails straight. It was a little too late for her toe, but not too late for the rest of her. And I changed too. I started paying attention to my own feet, grateful for each step they still allowed me to take. It makes me wonder, how many other things do we take for granted until we lose them? How often do we ignore small warning signs until they become unavoidable problems? Have you ever overlooked something important, only to regret it later? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your story in the comments. You never know who it might help. Fact 5. Your private areas need different care. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, once said, "The natural healing force within each of us is the greatest force in getting well." The ancient Greeks understood that the body has its own ways of maintaining balance, that interfering too much, whether with excessive washing, harsh treatments, or unnatural products, could do more harm than good. Even Native American women used only water and natural oils for cleansing, respecting the body's ability to care for itself. But somewhere along the way, modern society convinced us that we need chemicals, perfumes, and scrubbing to stay clean. We were taught that nature wasn't enough. And now, many women suffer because of it. I think about my friend Linda. She grew up in a time when girls were taught to feel shame about their bodies. She remembered her mother handing her a perfumed bottle of feminine wash as a teenager and saying, "You'll need this to stay fresh." The message was clear. Her body wasn't naturally clean. Decades later, Linda still believed that. Every morning she scrubbed with scented soaps, then followed up with powders and sprays. She had always done it, so why stop now? But then came the irritation, the dryness, the burning sensation that wouldn't go away. Her doctor told her she had developed severe skin sensitivity, that all those years of unnecessary washing had stripped her body of its natural defenses. "But I was just trying to stay clean," she said, frustrated. "Why did no one ever tell me?" That moment hit me hard. How many women like Linda had been taught that their bodies needed fixing when in reality they needed protecting? Linda changed her routine. She stopped using the harsh soaps and went back to basics. Warm water, a mild cleanser, and nothing more. And wouldn't you know it, the irritation disappeared. She felt healthier, more comfortable in her own skin. But what stayed with her the most was the realization that she had spent a lifetime believing something that was never true. And isn't that the way of things? Society teaches us habits, convinces us we need to do things a certain way, and we follow along, until one day we realize we were never the problem. So tell me, Have you ever looked back and realized you were doing something not because it was right, but because it was what you were told? Have you ever changed a habit and wondered why it took you so long? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might help another woman break free from an old belief today. Fact 6. Hard water can damage your skin and hair. The Buddha once said, "A jug fills drop by drop." The smallest things, the ones we barely notice, can slowly shape our lives for better or worse. The Romans knew this well. They built aqueducts to bring fresh water into their cities, understanding that the quality of water affected their people's health, their skin, even their hair. But not everyone had access to clean, soft water. The poor, who bathed in untreated wells or mineral-heavy springs, often suffered from irritated skin and brittle hair. They didn't know the culprit was something as simple as the water itself. Today we take modern plumbing for granted, yet many of us still deal with the same issue: hard water that leaves our skin dry, our hair lifeless, and our bodies craving relief. I learned this lesson through my niece Rachel. She moved to Arizona last year, thrilled about her retirement, but within weeks she started noticing changes. Her skin felt rough no matter how much lotion she used. Her hair, once thick and full, began thinning, breaking off at the ends. She thought it was age catching up to her, but then she noticed the white film left behind on her faucets, and the residue that built up on her shower glass. It was the water. It was stripping away the natural oils that protected her. She tried everything, expensive creams, deep conditioners, but nothing worked. One day I told her about my own experience. Years ago I had moved to a place with hard water and suffered the same way. "It's not you," I told her, "it's the water." She finally listened and installed a shower filter. Within weeks, the difference was clear. Her skin softened, her hair regained its shine, and she realized she had spent months blaming herself for something out of her control. And that made me think, how often do we do this in life? We struggle, we suffer, and instead of looking at the root cause, we assume we are the problem. We blame ourselves for being tired, for not looking the way we used to, for feeling older. But sometimes the issue isn't us, it's the environment we're in. It's the stress, the habits, even the water we bathe in. So I ask you, have you ever blamed yourself for something, only to realize later it was never your fault? Have you ever changed a small thing and suddenly felt like a whole new person? Share your story in the comments. Your words might help someone else see what they've been missing. Fact 7. A warm bath before bed improves sleep. The great philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." The ancients understood that peace does not come from force, but from gentle rituals that prepare the mind for rest. The Japanese, for centuries, have practiced yuzuyu, the art of soaking in warm citrus baths before bed, believing that warm water washes away the stress of the day and welcomes a restful night. Even Native American traditions speak of water as a sacred element, one that cools the body and soothes the spirit. In today's fast-paced world, where sleep is stolen by the glow of screens and the weight of worries, we forget the simple, time-tested ways to let go of tension. But the body remembers, if we let it. I think about my friend Helen, a retired nurse who had spent decades working the night shift. Her body never quite learned how to rest. Even after she retired, sleep remained a struggle. "I just lie there," she told me once, eyes weary, listening to the clock tick, feeling every ache, every thought pressing down on me. She tried everything: sleeping pills, herbal teas, meditation. Nothing worked. Then one evening while visiting me, she saw my routine. I poured warm water into my tub, added a few drops of lavender oil, and let myself sink into the quiet. "Try it," I told her. "Just for 1 week." She did. At first she doubted it would help, but she followed my instructions. Lukewarm water, no distractions, no rushing, and something changed. The first night she fell asleep faster. By the third night she woke up feeling refreshed, something she hadn't felt in years. "It's like my body finally understands it's time to rest," she marveled. And that's when I realized how many of us carry the exhaustion of life without ever releasing it. We treat sleep as a battle to be won, instead of a gift to be welcomed. A warm bath before bed is more than just hygiene. It is an invitation for the body and mind to slow down, to let go of the weight of the world, if only for a night. So tell me, What helps you find peace before bed? Have you ever changed a small habit that made a big difference in your sleep? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Your story might be the one that helps someone else find rest. Fact 8. Bathing habits affect heart health. The Greek philosopher Epictetus once said, "It is not what happens to you but how you react to it that matters." In ancient times, healers understood that sudden shocks to the body, whether extreme cold or overwhelming heat, could weaken the heart. Native American sweat lodges were used with care, balancing heat with moments of cooling, while Chinese medicine warned against sudden temperature changes that could disrupt the body's energy flow. Yet in today's world we don't always heed such wisdom. We push our bodies to tolerate extremes, unaware that something as simple as the temperature of our bath can silently strain our hearts. I think about my old friend Richard, a proud man, a veteran, a father, a husband. He had always been strong, the kind of man who shoveled his own driveway in the dead of winter and never let anyone see him struggle. But time catches up to all of us. In his 70s, he developed high blood pressure. His doctor warned him about many things: his salt intake, his need for daily walks, and yes, even his bathing habits. Avoid hot baths, the doctor told him. They can make your blood pressure drop too fast. But Richard, being Richard, scoffed at the idea. "A hot bath never hurt me before," he'd say. One evening, after a long day, he ran the water as hot as he could stand, hoping to soothe his aching joints. The steam filled the room, the heat wrapping around him like a heavy blanket. He didn't notice the dizziness at first. Then, as he stood up, the world spun. He grabbed for the wall, but his legs gave out beneath him. When his wife found him, he was conscious but shaken, his heart racing. That night, in the hospital, the doctor's words came back to him: "Your heart isn't what it used to be. You have to treat it with care." Richard learned his lesson. He adjusted: warmer, not hotter, shorter baths, not long soaks, and with those small changes, he stayed safe. I think about Richard often, about how many of us ignore the small warnings until they become big ones. How often do we tell ourselves, "I've always done it this way," instead of listening to what our bodies are trying to say? Have you ever had to change a lifelong habit for the sake of your health? Did you resist it at first? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how you learned to care for yourself in new ways. So there you have it. Small changes in how you bathe can make a big difference in your health, especially as you age. Whether it's adjusting the water temperature, shortening your bath time, or simply being more mindful of your routine, these little shifts can protect your skin, your circulation, and even your heart. And now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever changed a daily habit and noticed a real difference? Let me know in the comments. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more tips on living well at any age. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.